It's your Cinemacolor Trek podcast book version. Oh, the book's always better. We can admit that, right? Everybody likes the movies and they go to the movies, but the book's always better. And just like that, we're going to talk about a book version of a Star Trek TOS episode tonight, I guess, with my buddy Rob. That's right. It's the Is That a Trek in Your Pocket podcast number 10. We're done 10 of these now. And to talk with me about it is my good buddy, Rob McCullough. Good evening, Rob.
Good evening, pal. Yeah, and so, one of the nice things about these Trek in Our Pocket, books that we're revisiting, or in some cases visiting, is often they're based on episodes we loved.
Yes.
Or, maybe continuing stories that might have had a little left in the tank at the 50-minute mark when the episode ended. And sometimes those are awesome, and sometimes those are double.
Well, so it sounds like you weren't exactly enthusiastic about this book. I will say this, whatever you want to say about it, it was long. 308 pages is long for a Star Trek novel.
Yeah.
And it's by a first-time Star Trek writer, Michael Ian Friedman, or is it Michael Jan Friedman, I think. Michael Jan Friedman, who is still with us. He's 68 years old. This was his first Star Trek novel and not his last. So this is the only one that we're going to read. This was number 45. We're only going through 50. He also did number 56, which is called Legacy. Number 58, Faces of Fire. Number 59, The Disinherited. And he did 25. He did 25 other Star Trek novels: Original Series, Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, Voyager, and he even wrote a 6-volume series on Star Trek Stargazer between 2002 and 2004. That should tell you something when he wrote 6 books in 3 years.
So let me ask you this, Butch. Obviously, you and I have always dreamt but never followed through on how cool would it be to write a Star Trek novel.
Yeah.
And, if, there'd probably be what, maybe a dozen episodes you'd consider, linking your novel to.
Right.
Would What Are Little Girls Made Of make your short list of episodes you might spin a novel off of?
So the thought probably would not have occurred to me, honestly. I think that it's a good episode. I think we both like it.
What did I rank the other day?
I wish you hadn't asked that. I don't have those rankings at the top of my mind. I think you had it just outside your top 10, I think.
Yeah, I was going to say probably top 10.
We had made our top 20. I think we had it at like 11 is where we had it.
Really?
When we did our 2018 car ride. We had it at number 11.
Well, let me ask you this then, Butch. Yeah. This is an episode that we at least, like quite a bit, if not have it in the pantheon. Now, I would argue the reason we like it so much is it has 2 really great guest stars in Rook and Andrea.
Yeah.
So I can't wait to see what they're up to in this book, Butch.
You know what? I'll even go further and say that the guy who played Roger Corby was pretty good too, and so we could put all 3 of them in there and see what all 3 of them are up to on this one. Honestly, well, I will say I was glad to see that they at least name dropped Ruck and Andrea once each in chapter 1, so that's cool.
I can't think of any other reason to write this book unless you're like, I want more of Andrea and Rook.
Well, I will say that. I will say this. We'll talk about it more in the future. Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't figured out already, season 1 episode "What Are Little Girls Made Of" is an episode where Kirk and Nurse Chapel beam down to meet the Albert Einstein of medical archaeology, Dr. Roger Corby, who, by the way, I'm going to say it, you may or may not know this, but Roger Corby got name dropped in the most recent episode of Star Trek Strange New Worlds. True story. That's right.
I think you mean the Louis Pasteur of archaeological.
It's the same thing, really, is what I'm saying. Yes. So yeah, because it turns out Nurse Chapel in Star Trek Strange New Worlds wants to study medical archaeology. So maybe now we know how she gets hooked up with Dr. Corby, which presumably she hasn't yet. on the series, but that character we know when we meet her, when we really have our first time spending some quality time with one of the first times with Nurse Chapel in the original series. She's going to meet her lost love, who was presumed dead, Dr. Roger Corby, the Antony von Leeuwenhoek of medical archaeologists. And it turns out that he has made a discovery of some note, which is an android making machine. And he wants to spread the word throughout the galaxy. And so that's where this episode picks up, because I think if you want to say what about that episode lends itself to a sequel, the answer is he had these galactic conquest ideas, and he doesn't even get out of his frickin' cave.
Yeah.
So it's like, wow, can you imagine what happens if they duplicate everybody? They can literally take over the galaxy, and they don't get out of their cave. So you're going, okay, so what if instead of Roger Corby, not exactly a strategist Roger, what if the guy running that show wasn't Roger Corby, but it was the duplicate of James T. Kirk? Because in that episode, he makes a duplicate of James T. Kirk. Right. But the problem is the duplicate's working for him rather than the other way around, right? So so what happens is at the end of that episode, basically everybody vaporizes each other. I think Andrea kisses Dr. Corby. They're both androids. And then hits a phaser and vaporizes both of them simultaneously. Chapel has a good cry. They all go home and just literally sweep it under the rug. Well, it turns out, we learned in this book, they did, in fact, literally sweep it under the rug, because Kirk buries the news about what happened. He said, "Yeah, we didn't find any sign of Dr. Roger Corby," and he did that to save Chapel the embarrassment, and also because Corby was Kirk's hero, and he didn't want his name to be besmirched by the fact that an android of him tried to take over a starship and commit mass genocide and stuff.
Which is kind of noble in a sense, but I'm pretty sure it's not what Starfleet's looking for in their starship captains. They probably actually want the truth.
That's true, and one of the best parts about this book is that Kirk's like, shit, I was wrong. I guess I should have said something about that, because what happens then is the USS Hood literally blunders into this. Oh, I've heard of XO3, and that's where Roger Corby supposedly bought it. They don't know that Kirk's been there. They don't know what Kirk went through. They don't know that Kirk barely avoided getting taken over by androids. And so they walk into that trap, and they get trapped by it.
Hey, bud, how do you suppose Kirk explains the death of the two crewmen in that episode?
In that episode?
Do you suppose it's, hey, we went down there.
Yeah.
I thought there might be something. There was a couple of banana peels in a bottomless pit, but nothing else.
It's funny because, in reality, that's how they did die, right? They died slipping on... Well, no, the one guy slipped on a banana peel and fell, although Ruck probably pushed him. The other guy was just up there and got a fistful of a size 28 double long face palm, yeah, and stuff. So, yeah, how would they have explained it? I don't know, but the whole idea is Kirk's pretty good at winging it. And the idea is when this machine that Roger Corby discovered creates a duplicate of you, you have all of your memories, but you're a robot, and you're a robot, and you have this presumably inherent drive to do whatever your boss tells you, and your boss in this case is conquer the universe and make everybody robots.
Mind your business, Mr. Brennan. I'm sick of your half-breed interference.
Yes, absolutely. So I think this is a fascinating book. I wouldn't have thought it before, but I'm like, if you were to say, what would have happened if they'd actually got closer to implementing their plan? They could duplicate and replace anybody. We love our Invasion of the Body Snatcher movies, right? We love our Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep movies. We love all these things. That feels like you could make a better, more expansive, longer, more actual tangible danger story than what you got out of what Little Girls Made Up.
But Butch, didn't we do that in iMud?
Yes. So I guess that was the other option. We could have gone back there. So the whole idea is he just wanted to use a Macbeth quote, and so he was damned and determined to use a Macbeth quote in double, toil and trouble, fire burn and cauldron bubble. So anyway, like I said, I think this is a good book to try this with, and I think that in some ways it's fairly well executed.
Are you saying good or the premise is good?
I think the premise is good, and I think some of the execution is good. I will put it this way, because it feels like we get two primary guest stars in this episode. We get some rando alien guy who gets rescued by Kirk, and then we get some rando crew woman who's pining for Kirk. All of this feels very Star Trek first season, right? It's like, oh, you remember, Captain? We met at the science lab Christmas party and stuff like that. Do you remember when I threw my Doctari at you, Captain, and you made an illegal move? He's like, not now, Lieutenant. And so I mean, a lot of that feels like stuff we would have seen in the original series. Going to a planet for R&R and going straight to the seedy side of town, that's Argelius all the way, man. I mean, that's Argelius.
I enjoyed that part.
I mean, a lot of this feels that. Now, that being said, one could say, well, it is kind of retreading. It's like, by the way, does Starfleet always have like, Tranquility 7? It's like, it seemed like Reno, Nevada. Tranquility 7 did. I mean, is it just me?
What was the town we went to in Nevada?
Jackpot, Nevada. Nothing there but the casino on each side of the street. Nothing.
It was Jackpot, Nevada they went to. And now
the Shooting Star is the bar they go to in this novel. It's yeah. Ooh.
Long novel based on an episode that I really like of the original series. It did about as little with that as it could have.
All right, and let me tell you what else I think feels like the original series in this. The end sequence when they're in the shuttle bay and somebody jumping off the top of a shuttle, that felt very much like the end of Court Martial, where you have Ben Finney jumping off the top of some computer bullshit thing in engineering, and then they have a fight or whatever. And there's a lot of it that felt, it's like, first of all, it's a big open space. How does nobody see that guy on top of there twice? Whatever, it doesn't matter. So there's a lot of it that I think is familiar seeming. Do they pull it off? Having the Romulans. By the way, having the Romulans on our book list so far seems to be like a gold-plated ticket to the top of the list, right? My list, the top of my list is all Romulan episodes. So
yeah.
So one goes, well, I mean, that's how you get there, and they do have Romulans on this. But that being said, the Romulans here feel like the Klingons. I'm just gonna say it. It feels like the Klingons in Star Trek V, The Final Frontier. It's like some young guy just trying to like make a name for himself by blowing up some Federation ships. So is that a good thing? I'm inclined to think no. So those are negatives and stuff like that. But on the whole, where is it going to land? I don't know yet. Once again,
well, you got some juicy deets for us about this baby? I believe it was a bestseller.
Yeah, oh yeah, for sure. And this is like I said, came out in April of 1989. And like I said, this is one of the most prolific Star Trek writers there is, Michael Jan Friedman.
Star Trek V came out in June of '89.
Yeah, so this is right before that, which is interesting because maybe Shatner's like reading the dailies on this book and going, yeah, I'm going to write Captain Claus just like. By the way, I'm gonna say it now so I don't forget it in my notes. I wrote down the name of the two Romulans. There's a Romulan task force, and the commander is Tabak, and the other one all I remembered was T apostrophe something that started with O. So I just said to other guy because I was like, I'm not looking it up. It doesn't matter because nothing comes of it. We spend time with these guys; they're just there, and nothing happens. I mean, it's the curse of the novel. Like, and now we're going to see what's going on the Romulan bridge. Nobody cares. You know what? It felt like some episodes when you see a Klingon on the view screen, that's the only time you see the Klingon. We don't go over to the ship and see what's going on the Klingon ship. We're just like, Federation scum, we're going to destroy you. Click. That's all they need to do with the Romulans on this. It's like Romulans didn't need to be. We didn't need to get to know them at all or whatever, but they're just there to be a thing that it's an eventful thing, but all the eventfulness has nothing to do with the Romulans themselves. So what did you think about that?
About the Romulans?
About the use of the Romulans in this.
Well, this should be telling. I read this book a week ago. I finished it about a week and a half ago, and I had already...
He's forgotten. This is going to be a fun podcast if you haven't forgotten it, if you've already forgotten it.
Well, I remember the dipshit alien that, Leonard James, McCoy. No, I don't know.
Friday's Child.
I remember the stuff with the androids trying to, I mud this baby. I did like the scenes at the planet of Jackpot. So, it's not a terrible novel, but it was really like an empty pastry. Yeah. I'm expecting a maple bar or maybe a top ramen donut from Voodoo Donuts.
There you go. That's right.
Instead, I got just, a hard roll.
Rob was really pining for literary description of Andrea's ample nacelles, if you get my meaning.
What? At least imagine her in my head.
Well, that's the thing. You can do that anytime you want to. It's only a rumor, by the way, that Rob and Butch are planning a trip to Idaho to visit where the actress who played Andrea lives. We're not actually going to do that. It's fun to talk. What's that?
It's on the way. We should do
it. knock, knock, knock. Come on. No.
I bet you she photo for us.
How'd you get? How'd you get arrested in Idaho? Well, here's the thing. Yeah, I mean that's helpful to remember. She's 80 years old, so.
Hey, I don't want to sleep with her. I want a signed photo.
I know. It's fine. All right. So, do you still have the outfit? No. Forget I said that. All right. So I will say this. We also, for not the first time and probably not the last time, we meet another Starship crew, and we spend a lot of time with another Starship crew. That was a Web of the Romulans thing, right? Where we met an entire other crew and another commander, and that other commander plays an important role in this. I will say that we meet another crew here, but they play a more important role in this because we get to see, and it's less of a why are we spending time with these people, because all the time spent with these people is built back into the plot for our heroes doing stuff. So
did you say that Kirk is indirectly responsible for the fate of some of these crew members? I think probably yes, huh?
Well, like I said, man, if what it is at the end of the thing where you discovered Roger Corby's you learn the whereabouts of Roger Corby's expedition, and you find out that they just about tried to capture and replace a bunch of you, and you're not going to report it because you don't want to besmirch the good name of Dr. Roger Corby, and then somebody not knowing not to stumbles into it, and all this stuff happens, and some of those people, like his good buddy Captain Martinez, gets killed and stuff like that. I don't see how you can not blame yourself.
So it's kind of a big deal. Yeah, I think someone's getting written up, and his name is Kip.
Well, we'll find out. So why don't we jump in, shall we? All right. So I will say this: the chapters are short. Some of the recent books we've read have like 25-page chapters. This is 26 chapters or something like that. Yeah, 27 chapters over 300 pages.
So. The current book we're reading, the IDIC Epidemic, has nice short 9-page chapters. I'm digging it.
Well, that's great. All right, so in this chapter 1, we're going to meet Brown. Brown, as you know, was the assistant of Dr. Roger Corby, and he was the first one killed. That's how we learned out that everybody was robots down there, is that when somebody zaps him with a phaser, he has a big old robot hole in his tummy. And we think that that's the end of Dr. Brown. But
yeah, Brown was an interesting guy because he was the one who was acting a little screwy to give us a little suspense at the start of that episode, right? Like,
yeah, that's right.
Oh, Christine, it's you. How are you? It's Sorry you lost a crew member. So, nice weather we're having. I mean,
that
was
is
brown.
That is too bad. Yeah, boy, I'll tell you what, the direction of the androids in the original series was awesome. I'm trying to imagine what Blade Runner would have been like if the Nexus 6s were like Brown and or what's his Norman from I Mud, yes.
Yeah. Like tears in rain.
So what happens is that this Brown kind of like, oh, here I am. I guess I better go out and see where everybody else is. Oh, everybody else is gone. Oh, look, there's a different version of me with a hole in it. And then he's like, well, but I still have this directive to carry out Roger Corby's mission to conquer the galaxy with robots. And so I will do that. I still have the machine. I think I know how to work the machine. So I'll make a robot. And there's no bodies to replace, but luckily the template for the last person replaced is still in the machine. So he just turns on the machine, and it spins around, and now there's a naked James T. Kirk android running around briefly. And he's like, don't worry, I'm going to follow the plan. I think you should probably let me do this because I'm James T. Kirk. So he immediately takes over.
That's an interesting start, right?
I thought so, yes. So now we do get just a brief mention of the others, Corby, Andrea, and Ruck. They don't say the old ones at all in there. Basically, I think Brown doesn't need to know about the old ones, right? All he needs to know is that Corby was the master. Corby was the guy who was like the boss and gave them directions and told them what to do. And so that's his plan, is he's going to go about it. And that's then Android Kirk's plan. I'm going to just call him Alt Kirk for most of this.
Yeah. So, Butch, Brown was a real person before he was an android, right? Because Chapel knew him.
Yeah, and I think they describe this as what happened is that Brown is a little bit screwy because they made an android out of Brown after Brown had already died.
Okay, yeah.
And that's why he was screwy or whatever, and that's why he's still apparently screwy and not like the perfect android. But he does make the perfect android, except that his new Kirk, his Alt Kirk, that he makes is just like the Alt Kirk that Robot Corby made and What Are Little Girls Made Of, including that little half-breed interference prejudice that Kirk like slyly built in so that Spock would realize what was wrong. And it turns out that prejudice is going to really play itself out in this book. So,
or like he created Kirk to me a little bit.
Say that again.
And it feels a little bit he created a mirror universe Kirk. I mean, this guy's got delusions. He's kind of an asshole. Even the Kirk that was made by Corby was charming and nice. This guy's, I don't know, he's an evil Kirk for sure.
He's an evil Kirk, that's right. So let's move on, because this is almost how it's amazing how often Star Trek novels start like this. We meet somebody else in chapter 1, chapter 2, Captain's Log. We're on the Enterprise, or we're near the Enterprise. So the Enterprise is at some planet called Tanufo, and I wrote apostrophes, really? And they're evacuating Pothparians, and I wrote apostrophes, really? Because Pothparian has an apostrophe in it too. And it turns out that there's only one guy in their crew who can speak to the Tanufans, and that's crewman Donald Clifford. We don't really ever learn a lot about Donald Clifford except that he can speak this language. We don't get to know him. We don't know how tall he is. We don't know what his favorite beverage is. We don't know if he likes chicken sandwich with coffee for lunch. We don't know.
We don't like his meatloaf to look like a turkey or not.
But I'll say this. I mean, he's a character that you need to have because you want there to be a communication barrier, but you don't want yet another character taking up time that you could be doing things you could be having Sulu or Chekhov do, right? So maybe we don't need to know anything about him. Just he's there, we use him, that kind of thing.
So let me just say this, because I know you're about to get into the little subplot of why this guy even needs to be in the book.
Yes.
And how that's going to pan out to sort of save the day, I guess.
Yeah.
Later. I really feel like none of this had to be in the book.
I think you're right, is that it did not have to be in the book. And if you say, well, if you take all of the Pothpar and stuff out, and you take the guy out and all that stuff. You probably have a 240, 260 page book. It's a little tighter, right? You can still have your other guest star do all the discovering and all that stuff. So it kind of feels like they duplicate it, and they're like, well, we'll just see which one works, and then you're like, well, let's leave them both in. It's fine. So,
yeah.
But it is like, there. I suppose if you're gonna, the one thing about books, we've been saying it every time we do a book. The one thing about books that's different from the TV series, especially the original TV series, is that you can do things that look cool in a book that you couldn't do on a TV episode, and that is this planet's about to get hit by a massive meteor shower.
Right, we're gonna Armageddon it here, right? We're gonna have stuff whizzing by.
Yes, satellite of love. That's right. So, but the problem is there's still a person. One of the Tanufans is missing. So Kirk decides he's going to be the hero and go find him. He climbs after him because rock climbing. We know Kirk likes rock climbing because 2 months after this comes out, we're going to see Kirk climbing El Capitan, even though there's no danger of breaking the record for a free climb.
No, he did it just because it was called El Capitan. That's the only reason he climbed that one.
Yes, exactly. So, so there's a couple things that's weird about this. There is some sort of a pterodactyl type thing that he's having a little bit of a cat and mouse game with. And then the guy's sort of trapped under a rock, and so Kirk's like, well, I can't have Scotty beam him up because he might beam up integrated with the rock. I was like, since when? But it's fine. You know what? It's fine. He rolls the rock out of the way. We know Kirk can roll rocks out of the way of things because, on the planet with the Gorn, he's rolling rocks that nobody has any right to roll, but it's fine. It's cool. So he saves the guy. Well, that's going to come in to haunt him because the thing Kirk doesn't want, because it's still not, well, he doesn't want somebody hanging around him harshing his buzz when he's on shore leave. And so this is going to come back to haunt him. But he saves the kid. They both get beamed up. Scotty beams him up, and the kid is saved. Yada yada.
You're on shore leave. You're drinking Dr. Pepper with your pals. You're drinking Rigelian Blue Mountain Dew. Right?
There you go. Now you're onto something.
You're drinking dilithium dew, and this little kid's tugging at your tunic, going, "Can I try? Can I have some? Can I?" So Kirk's got it. Yeah.
Get out of here! Can you bother me? Yeah, I hear you. Right, exactly. So, but anyway, that's a time for another thing because now it's chapter 3, and we've got to go to a different starship. So let's meet the crew and captain of the USS Hood, which, funny enough, they mentioned 2 starships in this, the Hood and the Potemkin, and I'm like, how far away was the Ultimate Computer from this episode? Because we see the Hood and the Potemkin both in that episode, right?
Do we know about when? Is this like would this still be season 1? Do you think?
This is like 3 or 4 months after the Roger Corby incident. So yeah, so it's still season 1.
All right. So yeah, that's interesting. I always like to count for when this is happening.
Yeah, because What Are Little Girls Made Of was early season 1. So yeah. So I think for sure. All right. So we meet, and so Captain Martinez, Communications Officer Paltic, Lieutenant Banks, and they are on a mission to XO3 to check on the Roger Corby expedition. I was like, and this is only happening because Kirk, we're going to learn in the next chapter, Kirk didn't tell Starfleet about what he found there, right? So it's interesting that they search, and then but Brown on the planet reaches out to them, says, "Yeah, Dr. Corby's dead. Yeah, he died. It's only me and this other guy, Zazzle. We're the only survivors, and we have some fascinating stuff to show you if you want to beam down. So we can't just beam us up because we have fascinating stuff to show you. So basically, what's happening here is that it's not a guy named Zazzle waiting for him; it's Alt Kirk waiting for him, and Alt Kirk is more than a match for your average Star Trek starship commander, right? So we know that if your name's not Captain Tracy, you probably are going to get out-dueled by this guy. And that's exactly what happens as he goes down there, and he pops out, and then the encounter goes essentially similar to how it was in What Are Little Girls Made Of, but because Kirk is way more decisive than Roger Corby was. There's no, well, we'll have you have lunch with your duplicate and all stuff. He's like, how about we just duplicate you? I'll put, I'm holding you at phaser point, get on the machine, duplicate you, and then we learn later that presumably as soon as the duplicate was working, they just vaporized poor Captain Martinez. And that solves all the problems about this not working. We just sweep all the evidence under the rug because all that's left of him is a mote of dust.
That is a terrible way for a starship captain to go out.
Well, again, another captain killing you, except it's a facsimile of another captain, I suppose, right? So, but I thought that was interesting. And at the end of that chapter, Martinez is being duplicated, and Lieutenant Banks, his science officer, is trembling. And he should be trembling because we're never going to get to see poor Lieutenant Banks again. We're going to get to see Robo Banks, or the data banks, as it were. You can put my number in your data banks. That's a Morris Day and Time song if you're wondering. All right, so chapter 4. Chapter 4 is where we're back on the Enterprise with Kirk and his Pothparian friend in sickbay. And Chapel gets a lot of run in this novel, I'm not going to lie. Which makes sense. If you're going to do a novel sequel to What Are Little Girls Made Of, she was a big character in that. So it makes sense to have her be a big character in this, right?
You know who was a bigger female character in that episode, Butch? Andrea.
Nobody comes to mind.
I'm not getting over this. I'm not letting this one go, Butch.
Would you have been okay if it was Andrea down there instead of Brown?
Yes.
Yeah. You know why that wouldn't have worked? Because they would have made Alt Kirk, and Alt Kirk would be like, I don't need to go anywhere. I think we're good. Let's just hang out here. Yeah. You can make me a Russian, Romulan gin and tonics and I'm sure we could find a pole for you to dance on somewhere. That seems like Kirk. And I only say it seems like Kirk because Kirk's going to go straight to the jackpot area of the galaxy here in a little while. All right, so the important thing is Kirk is ducking his physical, which also feels very Star Trek original series, right? He doesn't want to take his physical. He's like, I'm in good health. And McCoy's like, yeah, you go ahead and prove it. So they go to the gym, and he does some, high bar dismount thing, triple flip, and McCoy's like, I don't know, didn't stick the landing. So he's like, all right, I'll give you one more test. And if you pass this test, then you don't have to do the physical. The test is I get to pick anybody in the crew to go one-on-one with you at an event. And so he's expected to be the thug of the eyebrow over there in the corner. And instead he's like, how about Ensign Denise over here? Denise DeLong over here. And he's like, really? And he's like, yeah, and we're going to do, what is the name of this damn thing that they do the contest with? Dallas Kari, right? Or something like that. And then so apparently she won some Dallas Kari titles on the planet she's from or whatever. She's grown up, and so she's young, and they're going to do this. And she takes it way more seriously because, spoiler, she has the hots for Kirk. Who doesn't? Am I right? I'm surprised I didn't have the hots for Kirk. Everybody has the hots for Kirk all the time.
Yeah, he's, we've talked about this before. I never liked Kirk growing up, but I get why. I love him now, and I get why everybody was enamored with the captain, and I'm not. Crew member has a crush.
Somebody asked me. I was having a heated discussion with somebody about Star Trek: Strange New Worlds, and they were saying that they thought that Chapel in Strange New Worlds is a slut. And I said, well, so you think Chapel's a slut, but did you have a problem with Kirk in the original series? And they're like, well, I don't know. What are you implying? What do you think Kirk was like in the original series? I was like, Kirk kissed anything that didn't run away. That's basically, and I think that's the best explanation of who Kirk was, is if they didn't actively run away, Kirk kissed them, basically. Yeah. So.
I don't know that I consent to kiss Andrea. And,
I mean, that consent doesn't have anything to do with it. It's like they usually did, but that's not the point. It's like the point is like if they don't say no, he kisses them. It is like that's how we grew up. Going, why do you think we grew up going? I want to be James T. Kirk.
Girls. I'm a little I'm not getting a slut vibe from Chapel. I think I like Chapel on the Strange New Worlds.
Yeah, it's one of those things. But yeah, that's the whole thing. Is in this, of course, in this novel, she doesn't come across as a slut at all. So that's the important thing. Nor does she come across as a slut in the What Are Little Girls Made Of episode. But the point is that's so the girls all like Kirk, right? Because and maybe because he's a powerful guy in a powerful position and he's a powerful personality, and stuff, and at least early in the season, he cuts a pretty good trim, and stuff like that, before the buffet line, as our buddy Jay used to say. So anyway, Kirk wins the contest. I wrote down, I don't like to lose. He wins the contest, doesn't have to do the physical, and then he gets a call from Admiral Strauss, who says the Romulans are getting frisky, so we need you to be in this sector. But that's okay. You don't need to be on the line yet. You just need to be in the sector. So we're sending you for R&R in the sector. So we're sending you to Tranquility 7. And it's like, Tranquility 7 they're so excited. It sounds like Tranquility 7 is the shiznit, is what it sounds like.
Not a bad word to have in your destination.
Yeah, that's right. The eagle has landed, as it were. So then we learned that Ensign DeLong, having just been defeated by Captain Kirk, is pining for Captain Kirk. We also learned that she's on Scotty's crew, and she's surprised, shocked, as it were, when Kirk comes and apologizes for cheating. Because that's the whole thing. Kirk just didn't know. He wasn't cheating. He just did something that seemed right, and won. So
he didn't cheat. He was playing street rules, and she was playing.
That's right. That's right. There was no Marquis of Queensberry in Dallas Kari. So I wrote down. So you're saying there's a chance, is what she said. So yeah, he came. He apologized. That, by the way, only made her pine for him more. So that's fun. That's where we leave off because we got to go back to Hood and meet some more people.
Did he apologize like he did with Kelvin Chick, or did he just do a regular apology?
He did an apology that would pass the HR muster. That's the whole thing.
All right.
The Kelvin Chick, he can apologize that way, but you can't just apologize that way with a fellow crew person because HR will get involved, right?
Absolutely will.
Although if she asked for the apology, then I don't think that's a problem, right? So, all right, so back on the Hood, we're going to meet some more people. We're going to meet the ship surgeon, Kai Chin, and we're going to meet the chief engineer, who's Vedra. And I think Vedra is also a woman. Kai Chin's a woman, right? And so they're both women, and they're kind of well, I don't really think I wrote anything particularly important down about either of those right now. Although we do know that they've beamed Zazzle aboard, and Martinez is beamed aboard, and all the other people that went down are beamed aboard, except none of them are people anymore, right? Including this Zezel guy. But the problem is they're saying, oh yeah, Zezel's on board. Zezel's actually Kirk. And so the problem is, what if somebody who's a human on the crew recognizes Captain Kirk? Which seems weird to me, that you're in the Navy and you have to have met him before to know what he looks like. I was like, don't they have pictures of people and stuff like that? Maybe it's early enough in Kirk's 5-year mission that he's not like the legend yet, maybe, right?
Yeah, I think, that has to be it. I'm sure there's people in the Army who don't know who General so-and-so is.
Or they don't know what he looks like, right, exactly. So it's a bit of a thing, because then they beam up, and then Martinez says, yeah, we're going to go to Mitos 5, which we have already learned in the novel. Mitos 5 is where Roger Corby wanted to take his android-making machines, but then he was defeated by Kirk. But now he's got a starship, and he's got his stuff loaded up. They beamed up a whole bunch of equipment. They don't know what it is, and they're going to take it to Mitos 5, right? And the problem is that Banks, who beamed down and is now a robot, used to date Vedra, who's the chief engineer, or they were dating, or they had a fling, or whatever. It doesn't matter, because he's basically interrogating her to find out if she knows Kirk. And as soon as they find out that she's met Kirk at something, well, it's curtains for her, right? They just well, anyway, he poisons her, and she goes, why, Jamal? And he's like, just wiping his hands of her, washing that gray right out of his hair is what he's doing.
You know what he said, Butch? Do you know?
I don't know. Well, I should. I'm assuming you didn't actually say it. You're going to make a joke, but go ahead.
That hurts me, Butch. He said, "You blab, Quaid. You blabbed about Mars."
Yeah, that's pretty much it. That's literally it, right? It's like, we don't want to kill you, but it's your fault. So anyway, Vedra's death is ruled a suicide. Her friend Chin thinks that's bullshit. I would have known if she was thinking suicide, but she asked for a review because she suspects something, and the captain comes back and said, "Yeah, I reviewed it. By the way, we didn't find nothing." So that's going into the thing, and now, so now then we see the android command crew start plotting. They decide, well, we probably shouldn't kill off anybody else right now because we can't kill anybody else right now because it would look bad, and we probably can't copy anybody else right now because the machines are all in storage down there. So we'll have to wait till we get to EIGHT TOS 5, and then maybe we can do something or whatever.
Eye on everybody.
Yeah. Anyway, so that leads us back to Enterprise setting course for Tranquility 7, and I get it. The picture I get in my mind's eye, when Kirk says, "Hey, Chekhov, set course for Tranquility 7," is that he did that dance thing, that he did in iMud or whatever. He's very excited. That's what I'm saying. I have been plotting that course all week, Captain. So they're excited to be going there. Everybody's excited to hear that they're going to shore leave at Jackpot, Nevada. And then but the problem is they're like, all right, let's set course. We just got to get rid of that kid from the Pothparian, and they're like, yeah, he's not going. Turns out he owes you a life debt now, and so he has to save your life, or else he hangs around you forever. He's your ward. He's like, you can decide to make him Robin to your Batman at some point, but you have to keep him around now. Basically, is what it is.
Yeah.
And Kirk is not having it. He's like, but I'm going down for some R&R. And by R&R, I mean rye whiskey and wrestling with some naked girls. So
on some lovely planet.
Yes. Yeah, you don't happen to have notes on top of your phone, do you?
No.
Yeah, because I think it feels like your microphone's blocked sometimes. So
it's because I have it resting on my lard-filled stomach.
Okay, well, don't do that because then I can't hear you very much. So, or it's better hearing if you're not resting on your microphone. All right, so I wrote he owes Kirk a life debt, and then I just wrote Jar Jar Binks. That's exactly what the whole thing with Jar Jar Binks was. Is that he owed Qui-Gon Jinn a life debt, and that's why he ended up hanging around, and all that happened there is that he nominated that Chancellor Palpatine become Emperor Palpatine. So that's why you don't let life debt things go very long. It's because it'll come back to bite you in the ass.
Yeah. It never works. It doesn't pay off.
Yeah. So the thing is that other starships find out where other starships are going. So the captain, the robot captain of the Hood, finds out that Enterprise is going to Tranquility 7. So they're like, that's great. We're going to go there, and I'll set a trap, says Alt Kirk, for the real Kirk at Tranquility 7. And so we get a couple chapters of this, right? So we get a chapter of Kirk, chafing about Kleb, and then Sulu teaching Kleb fencing. He's a natural, blah, blah, blah. But he won't fight Kirk because life debt, blah, blah, blah. Is it okay if I'm blah, blah, blahing some of these Kleb chapters?
Yeah.
And then Alt Kirk beams down to set a trap in Trank Town. He made a big deal about needing to get some dilithium crystals. And now he's going down there to meet with the seedy underbelly, the guys who fix the cards and break the knees, at the card rooms in Trank Town. I love how they call it Trank Town, because that's like the new street drug around here is Trank. And so Trank Town and Tranquility Base, I'm imagining they're all using horse tranquilizers in Trank Town.
You guys have Trank already in Oregon?
Oh yeah, well it's a thing, right? I mean, we have a porous border with the state of Washington, as it turns out. So they beam down. They've already beamed down the equipment to the planet they were going to, and that happens right before they decide to set the trap. Now this trap is being set. So what Alt Kirk is doing, he's going to meet with the Rithrian, who's like the crime lord in Trank Town, or one of the crime lords in Trank Town. He's like, I want to make this deal. I got a couple dilithium crystals here. I can get 40 of them for you. I just need an advance. And so the Rithrian gives him an advance, and he goes and spends that money all over town, makes it a bad name for this guy who looks a little bit like James T. Kirk, makes a bunch of enemies around town with this money he's spreading around, and then he leaves, and then he just has to sit back and wait for Kirk to beam down and for the fun to begin, which is kind of, I think that's a cool idea, that you're like, if you're like the guy who looks just like James T. Kirk, how can you get him in trouble? And the answer is, you make a bunch of bad, shady business deals with people that then want revenge on him, and have the mob kill him. That's interesting, because that's a completely, your hands are free of that, right? Because they just think it was him.
That is a Bond villain solution if I ever heard of one.
I will give you that. Yes.
Wait for him and you shoot him when he gets there. How about that?
Well, because they're right. They don't need to duplicate him, because they already have his duplicate, right? So yeah, you're right. It's a Bond villain way of doing it. That's right. So
I mean, it's fun. I enjoyed reading it. I was trying to figure out what he was doing for a minute, and it's like, oh, I get it.
There are parts of that whole plot line that I think are the worst parts of this novel. But that's okay. This part with him setting the trap is fine. And then, of course, Kirk arrives, Enterprise arrives at Tranquility 7, and Kirk's like, all right, Spock, you come with us. Spock's like, no, I'm going to stay up here and, meditate in my quarters or whatever. But you guys go down. So, of course, it's Argelius all over again. There's Kirk and McCoy and Scotty. And they're like, I know this place. He's like, let's go see. Yeah, which is actually not, that's actually Wolf of the Fold, isn't it? Well, that's
you would think after Wolf of the Fold, Scotty would go nowhere near a planet for R&R.
Yeah, but that hasn't happened. This episode takes place before that. Oh, so I think that's why he hasn't learned his lesson. He's like, yeah, because you're right. Argelius should really give him pause, but Argelius hasn't happened. But I did. But I was like, I was imagining, if I may quote an FBI guy from Die Hard, just like Beckett Argelius, hey, slick. Yeah, I mean, I was in junior high, you asshole. Yeah. But it's meant to feel like that, though, right? It's like they have the little buttons you push on the light thing and everything. So they go down there, and Tranktown is a dive. And I was like, think Nimbus 3, right? Think that kind of dive. Like there's a pool table with water in it, and a cat girl dancing on a water-filled pool table or some nonsense like that.
Exactly.
Yeah. But they do seem to like those places. Kirk, this is like Kirk's thing. Argelius and this place and that place. Kirk likes this stuff. Which
Kirk likes slum, and he likes those hole-in-the-wall dive bars. Yeah, for sure.
So then, unfortunately, some thugs show up, and they're like picking a fight with him, and they're like, "Yeah, you made bad for the wrong guy, so you're toast, whatever your name is." And McCoy's like, "You don't know who this guy is. This is Captain James T. Kirk." They're like saying it like, this is Jason Bourne, he eats wheat and craps buttered toast. You can't fuck with this guy. He's Captain James T. Kirk. And they're like, I don't know who that is. Give us so a bar fight ensues that goes on for a while, by the way. And in the bar fight, Kirk does okay. Scotty does okay. McCoy's like unconscious and being passed over the crowd, and he gets a little concerned, and then they all get sapped, essentially.
Yeah.
And
zapping is alive and well in the 23rd century.
Yeah, and then when Kirk wakes Scotty up after the fight, he's like, well, so McCoy's in bad shape. We need to get him back to the Enterprise. And Scotty's like, okay. So when the next chapter starts, we see it from Scotty's point of view. And Scotty's like, the first thing he sees when he regains consciousness is Kirk telling him, we got to go. And then as soon as, and the way the author wrote this is that if he means our hero, James T. Kirk, he writes it regular Kirk. But if he means android, it's the italics. And so when Kirk is talking to Scotty from Scotty's perspective, it's regular Kirk. But then you see it from his perspective that he's android Kirk. And you're like, oh shit, it's already happened. They beam up, and we don't know what happened to James T. Kirk. Maybe he's vaporized already.
Could be.
Probably not.
But if the rest of the series would root for the wrong guy.
Yes, and so Alt Kirk is sitting there going, confident that the Rithrian will take care of his little Kirk problem for him. Again, very, Now, Mr. Bond, I'm going to leave, and my henchman will finish you off. Yeah.
Does that seem to you like, I know I'm picking nits here, does that seem to you that something that Kirk would do? That seems like he would not make that gross assumption. If he were to, he wouldn't do any of this, but I mean, if he was going to eliminate an enemy, I don't think he'd just be like, yeah, it's probably fine. I bet these local acts will take care of it.
Yeah, that seems a legit point because it's Kirk's experience that he's calling on here, right? It's Kirk's plan, and would Kirk do that? And I think you're probably right that Kirk wouldn't do that. But we have a need to fill in the other 60 pages of the 300-page novel. So here we are. So then there's a couple chapters in here that it drags, man. So Kirk is in Hawk with the bad guys, and he's tied up, and his hands and ankles hurt where the ropes are too tight. And
I actually enjoyed this chapter, Butch. I thought it was a fun James Bond escape. He gets dragged out to the weeds. He's gonna get tossed in the swamp or something like that. I thought it was pretty good. It was a fun little, it was one of those chapters where they're describing what's going on in Kirk's head, trying not to black out, trying to think on his feet, trying to get on his feet. So it was different. I liked it. It was pretty good. Did you not care for it? It sounds like.
Well, first of all, it's like 4 chapters. That's the whole thing. It's dragged out over a few chapters, and that's the thing. So there's a whole chapter where it's just like he's like not sure what to do. I will say that there at the end of chapter 12, there's derisive snorting, and I was like, it's been a while since we've had derisive snorting in a Star Trek novel, but some novelists, the writers really like their snorting. So I've never seen the word snort so many times as I see them in Star Trek novels. It's crazy. But so Alt Kirk is now he's gathering his crew from Tranquility 7 to move on to the next part of his plan, because now Alt Kirk is now in command of the Enterprise, right? He's made it to command of the Enterprise, which is interesting. And Spock relays a report from Mitos 5 where colonists have been disappearing, because this is all part of Alt Kirk's plan too, right? Because he needs to get the Enterprise to Mitos 5 so he can use the machines there to replace some of his crew members. Some of our heroes.
Yeah, I'm not real happy that he took over the Enterprise so effortlessly. I get why it would be like that, but I mean, usually there's some inkling by someone. Scotty picks up on it, or Spock does. Somebody has an idea that maybe something isn't quite right, because we've had a million imposters, or we will. Maybe that's why they're so good later in the series, is because this happened. But we had. We had gender swapped Kirk took over the Enterprise. We had, well, I know we've had other examples. Just because I can't think of them doesn't matter. But
well, I mean, it's funny because you mentioned it was funny. Nobody notices that something's wrong. Well, somebody does notice something's wrong, and it's Kleb, our new Pothparian guy. He notices, and we learn later that it's because he's empathic and he can perceive things about somebody's thoughts that a normal person can't tell by looking at him, and he thinks he's a demon because he's not getting anything from him. So
right. So do we have anyone on the actual crew who maybe could have filled this role? Anybody coming to mind?
We could, we could do that, but I think
what's that one guy's name again?
I was actually thinking Deanna Troi is on Next Generation, but
I was thinking Mr. I'm going to tell the guards we've escaped through a wall.
Well, there's a reason that the first person that Kirk's going to like replace is that guy, because he's the most dangerous one, right?
Yeah.
And so, even if he is a half breed, so eventually, then Kirk uses the "I'll talk." No, I guess he had no one to yell that to or whatever. But he swallows his fear. There's still a chance. There's always a chance, he says. And then he actually managed to escape by tossing the big Scarface guy into the swamp. And then he uses a flivver, I believe it's called a clutch, to pull the guy out of the swamp, because Kirk just can't even let a bad guy die, right? If he can save him.
That's on point.
Yeah, it's on point, because he does that with Krug in Star Trek 3. It's like, no, I know you just tried to kill me, and you just did kill my kid, or you had him killed, you had him ordered killed, but I'm going to give you a hand to help you out of the trench there, kind of a thing. So it's just Kirk's nature to do that. And then he escapes in the swamp, and he steps on. We learned that Kirk stepped on something called Malachi's boot, which is a tentacle plant or something that poisoned him. And I was like, can you imagine if the hero of Star Trek went out like that? That is going out like a punk. He's hitchhiking and he steps on a plant called Malachi's boot and he gets poisoned and he's almost dead until he gets rescued by the portmaster.
By the lighthouse operator.
Yeah.
That would have been a lowly way to go. How'd Kirk die again? Yeah, you don't ask.
That guy's name is Keith, but his name is Keith, so I'm like, well, Keith, and I'm imagining Brian Keith playing this role. You know, the guy who was, well, you know who Brian Keith is, of course, right? The actor.
Absolutely. I was picturing a white guy, but yeah.
No, you're Keith David is who you're thinking of. Brian Keith. Brian Keith was the dad in A Family Affair, which is not the same guy as Hardcastle and McCormick. He's like in Hardcastle and McCormick.
What about an old Willem Dafoe, like The Lighthouse?
Oh, that would totally work. Yes, absolutely. I just got mesmerized by the word Keith and named Keith and thought Keith.
Yeah.
So here's the thing. Here's the deal. So meanwhile, the USS Hood, Captain Martinez, android, gets now in charge of that, also doing things around there, pretending to be humans, gets word that the freighter Rheingold has a passenger who claims to be, and then I'm going to refer to him for the rest of the episode, at the real Kirk, because that's his Twitter handle. If Kirk was on Twitter, that would be his Twitter handle, at the real Kirk. So yeah. And so Martinez is like, shit, we got to go back to Tranquility 7 and deal with this, right? Because if he's back there, we have to figure out what's going on.
He's gonna blab.
He's gonna blab. Meanwhile, Enterprise is at Meados 5, and they went there because there was reports of colonists disappearing, and they are disappearing because Brown is putting them in the android machine and then presumably vaporizing him, although we learn later that he's not.
I think it's a wood chipper a la Fargo, but they're not meeting a nice end.
Yeah. So there's two shuttlecraft, the Columbus, which has Chekhov and Chapel and a couple security guys in it, and then Sulu's flying around the Galileo 2. Not to be confused with the Galileo 7, I guess. But yeah, I digress. So they're zipping around looking for stuff. Spock sees something, so they land and investigate, and that's when Alt Kirk springs his trap. It's like, yeah, they pop up, they phaser some guys, stun him presumably, because you don't want to vaporize him before you put him in the machine. And then Kirk comes back and says, oh yeah, we found some bad guys. Everything's under control. Yeah, Chekhov and Chapel, you want to go down there and get on the action, you can go down there too. I'll stay up here with the shuttle. You guys can go down there. Wink, and it'll all be fine. So the reader is left to go, oh shit, they just got Sulu and Chekhov and Chapel and all these security guys and Spock. And they were like, well, maybe I read that wrong. Maybe that's not what actually happened, but we'll find out. So we're moving on back to the Hood. We learned that there's a few members of the bridge crew on the Hood that are still human. Paltic, who's the comms officer, and Chin, who's the chief medical officer, are talking about it, and they still suspect something. And Keith reaches out to them and says that they have Kirk, and all of a sudden they're like, oh no, maybe there's something going on. And so then we have some androids who everybody thinks are real people beaming up to the Enterprise, including Chapel. Chapel beams up, and she's nice. She seems like Chapel, but we know that she's not Chapel anymore.
She's not Chapel.
Right. And so Chapel's acting squirrely a little bit, and people are suspicious, but nobody knows nothing, so their secret is still safe, it seems like that. And meanwhile, the Hood has made it back to Tranquility 7. They beam Kirk up, and Kirk thinks that this is a starship, and he's like, "Why?" Because Kirk this whole time is like, "Where'd the Enterprise go? They wouldn't leave without me." And he's like, "Well, wait a minute. Maybe they left because maybe the Romulans attacked and they couldn't search. They had to leave. But now I haven't heard, so maybe they got destroyed by the Romulans."
Yeah.
And so he gets back, and they're like, "No, they're good. They're fine. It's all good. Why don't you come to this cabin we have for you, Captain Kirk?" So they take him. Martinez takes him to the cabin and says, well, anyway, I'm going to zap you because I'm an android. And then luckily for him, Dr. Chin comes in at just the right time. to interrupt, and a fierce battle ensues with an android who used to be Kirk's friend from the Academy days, Captain Martinez. And Captain Martinez gets zapped, and he is clearly an android, and now Kirk knows what he's up against. For the first time, Kirk really knows what he's up against. Oh, X-03. Oh, shit. And all of a sudden, he's having not enough guilt pains, but he at least kind of thinks about it. Oh, no, is this my fault? Kind of a thing. So yeah, because he learns there at X-03, and he finds, oh yeah, that's right. Corby wanted to go to Mitos 5, and then and I wrote what they wrote in the novel. It hits him like a ton of dilithium crystals. Is how the writer says it. That's right. It hits him like a cool line from Hamilton or some other reference that nobody would know back then. It hits him like Daryl getting shot in Walking Dead. Says, whatever. No, see, that's too on the nose. Anyway, I digress. The lithium crystals is exactly right. Like a Rigelian bat, it hits him. So
like an Aurelian anvil.
Yep. So Kirk is sitting here wondering where his infallible plan went wrong. He had already helped to dissuade. DeLong's been you remember our good friend Ensign DeLong. She had some suspicions, but then the android paved over the suspicions. But then he treats her badly again, and so now she's suspicious again because
Yeah, she thinks Kirk's bipolar. I mean,
that's exactly right.
He's into me. He's giving me the brush off like we never met. What's up?
He's all ones and zeros. He's hot or he's cold. He's yes or he's no. So then we have a briefing room scene with the androids. Alt, Kirk, and Spock and Chapel are discussing Kleb and his empathic abilities. And does McCoy know? Does he suspect? How do they keep this under the wraps? And by the way, we also learned that Alt Spock is getting on Alt Kirk's last nerve, because that little suggestion that Kirk planted when that your half-breed thing, this robot Kirk is quite anti-Spock. He can't have it. Spock thinks he knows more than me. Spock thinks he's better than me. Spock's trying to upstage me. Your half-breed interference is like really, and it's fun now. They play a little bit with like the robot Kirk is prejudiced against robot Spock because Kirk put that in his brain.
Yeah, I'm a little surprised because it seems like that little thing that Kirk did, which was important in the episode, has really almost had the effect of making a completely different personality for this guy.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm wondering what happens when the other people are duplicated. Are they like, well, fuck Dr. Corby is their last thought, so then the android's formed with fuck Dr. Corby. I mean,
that's true.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's true. They're not smart enough like Kirk to come up with stuff like that, is what it is. So Admiral Strauss gets on and orders Enterprise to the neutral zone because the Romulans are on the move. So they had all these plans to replace the entire Enterprise crew, but they're going to have to wait. They've replaced some key personnel, but not all of them. But it's going to have to wait now because they got to go do their duty until they can complete their plans to conquer the universe. They have to go do their duty, but it's okay because if Kirk can blast some Romulans, imagine how much better an android Kirk can blast some Romulans, right? He's very confident in himself. So,
and it is interesting how Android Brown number 12, he is building up some resentment towards Mr. Hotshot New Kirk.
Yes, he is.
So which is interesting because that might pay off later, and yeah, we'll see.
And one of the ways he's doing that is we learned that the crew of the Enterprise that's been duplicated, Brown didn't do what he was told and kill them. He stuffed them in a cave, right? So they're stuck in a cave. They can't get out. Yeah. But he's not like, because, that's what Kirk said is, well, every time we make a duplicate, we'll kill the original so that they can't interfere, right? And Brown because he resents Kirk a little bit, Alt Kirk a little bit, is not doing that. So that's kind of fun. And
he's works. Sort of saying, my interpretation is that the real Dr. Corby would not have wanted me to do this. So just because this asshole kind of put himself in charge so doesn't mean it's going to supersede what I think my real orders are.
Yes. So now, as we know, Kirk is on the hood and he's accidentally, on purpose, killed the fake Captain Martinez. But now they have to retake the hood by getting, and they basically go, so who are all the officers who beamed down? That's who we need to replace, right? That's who
I was a little surprised here because I would stop vaporizing them. Let's keep an android corpse to show everybody.
Yeah, so there's some proof besides that, right? I guess they're not taking any chances, but it feels like not taking any chances is taking a chance, is what it feels like, right? So you're saying it might be worth having some something to demonstrate that this happened.
For the sequel to this episode, which would be called Court Martial. It'd be good to have.
Yeah, but I mean, don't we all have smartphones? Snap some pictures, take a video. Why don't we have some proof of this, right? Am I right? Okay. I mean, everybody's carrying the phone in their pocket, right? Picture, right? That's what you should do, right? So then we get a long chapter, which is a montage of them in twos on the hood, taking out all the robots. And I think that this chapter would be more fun and go faster if we sped up all the action and played the Benny Hill music while it's happening.
Absolutely.
It's like until now it's done. We've eliminated. That was a long chapter, and it's like a couple. They could have done a couple of them, and that would have been fine. They tell us about all of it, and I was like, okay, we get it.
Yeah, I'm a little surprised that you like this book at all. It's got some warts.
I'm not gonna lie. I agree with that. All right, so then. Meanwhile, we have Strauss orders them to join the Hood to join the Enterprise in the neutral zones, and now it's all going to come to a head because now they've cleared the robots off the Hood, but now the Hood is going to have to go to the neutral zone. So
yeah,
and that's where the Enterprise is. They're in the neutral zone, and there's a young commander in charge of the 3 Romulan ships there. To back, they learn that they have the pretense of a captured freighter, which they say violated Romulan space. Blah blah blah.
Yeah. Hey, Butch, have you noticed in a lot of these books, I liken it to 70s Muhammad Ali. A lot of these commanders that the Enterprise comes across are so paranoid about the legend of Kirk that if they would just act like a normal commander, they'd blow the Enterprise out of the sky. But they're always afraid he's doing the old rope-a-dope,
Yep.
And here we have it again.
Well, that's always been Kirk's go-to move, right? Is he bluffs them into oblivion, and it's going to work again this time because, how do you know we don't have cloaked Federation ships? We stole the cloaking device, and I was like, no, you didn't. That hasn't happened yet. That doesn't happen until season 3, and we're all still on season 1. But that's something a lot of the novel writers have done in all these books. Is they'll set something in a certain time. We saw that with the one that was set, near that episode Tomorrow Is Yesterday, when they go back to the 60s and stuff like that. That and they say exactly when that episode they say in the novel when exactly the star date was, and we know that that's well before the episode when they steal the cloaking device, but they reference it in that novel. I was like, I think even the writers of these novels don't always do a good job of keeping the timeline straight. Some of the writers do. Right. Diane Duane's pretty good at it, but I don't think a lot of these other writers are, and stuff like that. So, but it's fine. I think, they're like us. We watched them all in no particular order. So we just assume all of this stuff has happened in the past, even though they're clear about this being just a couple months after What Are Little Girls Made Of?
Yeah.
So anyway, then we get what is, as always, a very long and deep, drawn out space combat scene, which I should love, and I once again don't. I don't care. Yeah, there's a flanking maneuver, and so shields are damaged. They turn around, and there's they need to fix the engines, but Scotty's like, well, we got to fix this hull breach down on deck 12, and Kirk's like, screw the hull breach, fix the engines. And he's like, but people are going to die. And Kirk's like, this is all Kirk, of course, going, who cares? We got to fix the engines. And in some way you can go, yeah, if we don't have engines, the Romulans are going to blow us all up. So what does it matter if we fix the hull breach if the Romulans blow us all up? I suppose there's that. But Scotty's like, well, this doesn't sound like the captain at all. I can't believe he'd do this. Just key. Anyway, so again, we're getting more people now, Scotty, who are having questions about this. Doesn't sound like the Kirk I know and love, right?
Yeah, this guy's doing a piss poor job for being an identical replica. Not so good.
Yep. So then we have Kirk reaching out to some of the other ships, the Potemkin, which is also there, telling them about the androids. Uhura is on the bridge. She's one of the few non-androids on the bridge of the Enterprise right now, because Spock, Kirk, Chekhov, and Sulu, all androids, right? So, and she's sitting there going, man, it's hot. We're in the heat of battle, the literal heat of battle. Why is nobody sweating? I get Spock not sweating. Why is Chekhov not sweating with that big old mass of moppy hair? First of all, why is Chekhov on the ship right now? If we're thinking about this, Chekhov shouldn't be on the ship. It doesn't matter because we're not dealing with the timeline correctly, right? I just thought of that too. This is supposed to take place a couple months after one of the little girls made him. Chekhov's not on the crew yet. It doesn't matter. You're helping me talk this novel down my list, damn it. It's fine.
Well, I didn't even notice any of this, and I already have it pretty low.
So. Yeah, so all right, so she does get a message from @real James T. Kirk. And basically using that, he tries to convince Spock, but it becomes obvious that Spock is also a robot, and so he asks her about, do you give me a list of everybody who beamed down to that planet? That's how we're going to know, right? So she gives him the list, and now he's going to use that list against him, because he ends up quickly, the Romulans are still a threat, but then when the Hood and Potemkin arrive, they shift the balance as usual. I have no idea what's happening, I wrote, but real Kirk calls for the cessation of hostilities successfully. He gets a message to Uhura, and then he has they have this whole idea he's going to manage to get on the Enterprise. Real Kirk is, right? I don't know who he's leaving in charge of the Hood, but it's fine.
He's going to pop the Hood and go back to the Enterprise.
Yeah, and then Chapelloid tries to kill our hero Kleb and our guy hanging around Clifford. Are you still here, Clifford? Cool. Well, all right. So yeah, it's like he's like, I didn't know you were in the room. Have you been in the room the whole time? Oh, you have. Oh well, okay, cool. Well done, Clifford. All right. So and then of course McCoy and Uhura rescue them from Chapelloid. I love that, Chapelloid.
I like that too.
And then Real Kirk beams over the Enterprise. He asks for Scotty and then zaps the two guys who were with him, because he asked for, hey, bring Weingard and Schmitzen over here. And they're like, oh, that's gonna be good. So of course Weingard and Schmitzen are on Uhura's list, so he immediately vaporizes them. Says, yeah, they were androids. And he's like, I freaking knew it, says Scotty. So yeah, we're running to a finish here. I will say this: DeLong, who's on the engineering team, is in a Jeffries tube plus 5 points. So yes. That doesn't hurt. You mentioned Jeffries tube, you get a free drink. So
is she wearing a skirt or slacks?
In this, it would be consistent with a series to have her in a skirt.
Hell yeah!
So in the Jeffries tube, yeah, with the skirt in the Jeffries tube, yeah. So she gets a call that says, by the way, Scotty wants us all to assemble here. She's like, well, I haven't done my repair yet. And they're like, okay, yeah, apparently there's androids. And she's like, oh, no, yeah, I'm not supposed to tell you, but there's androids. So things are all falling into place here is what I'm saying. So then it becomes clear that there's only 4 androids left, and it's Kirk, Spock, Sulu, and Chekhov. And they're all on the bridge, and they're like, we just got to make a break for it. We've lost the ship. We're not going to be able to continue. If we're going to win the galaxy, we have to get off the ship and somehow get back to the planet and start our plan anew. So they decide they got to get to the shuttle bay, and they make it to the shuttle bay, and that's where our big showdown is in the shuttle bay, right? And there's Sulu jumping off the top of a shuttle and getting zapped. I will say this: Alt Kirk just says, "You know what? I don't need you, Spock," and just gets rid of Spock and his half-breed interference because of prejudice. The one guy who could have saved him, and he vaporized him. That's great. So that's kind of fun. It all is resolving itself by itself, basically, is what I'm saying. Yeah. And so they resolve all that. Alt Kirk is killed when there's a fuel leak on the shuttle that explodes into flames, and he bursts into flame, very much like the Terminator and 1984 is the Terminator burst into flame, and instead of being a silver, yes, thank you. Instead of being a silver skeleton that survives, he actually doesn't survive that. So all the and then they go back to the planet and they find all their crew that's been replaced safe and sound.
But how in the hell do we not get a Kirk versus Kirk boss battle?
Well, because you're just gonna have to wait till Star Trek 6, baby.
Well, I mean, what in the hell is this guy doing?
Yeah, he wouldn't have to. Yeah, you wouldn't have to figure out how to put it on screen. You're right, and it's funny. They don't even throw a punch at each other. They don't even come to blows.
I don't think they talk, do they? Do they have a conversation?
Well, they're both in the shuttle bay, but I don't think they talk. You're right. So I didn't think about the fact that they left that opportunity sitting on the deck plating of the shuttle bay. Yeah. So
no, I think this guy just had a bunch of ideas and didn't know what the hell he was doing.
Yeah, that's fair. All right, so now we're moving along a little bit. And the cessation of hostilities of the Romulans. DeLong is no longer pining for Kirk because she's fallen in love with Critelli. You're probably going, who's Critelli? You're like, yeah, you didn't hear mentioned it. Yeah, well, now she loves him, so it's fine. So they hook up instead. Kirk gets his physical. Kleb is relieved from his life debt because, by discovering Alt Kirk, he saved Kirk's life. So and it's funny because that's how a regular series episode ends. We're never going to see you again. We're never going to see you again. Be gone. She marries Critelli. They presumably leave to go on their honeymoon. That's when we never see her again. And so they wrap everything up, and that's the end of this novel. So
forget that half of the crew of the Hood got murdered. Yeah, no, it's fine. Everything's fine. The Black Freighter of Death has done its job once again.
That's right. So, like I said, overall, I thought the choice of a story to tell was a good choice of a story to tell. I thought that some of the execution of it and some of the way the characters act was pretty good. I liked, the whole the consistency of having Kirk go to the seedy side of town, all that stuff. There's things about it that feel right, but as execution goes, is it great? I don't know. So there's things that I like, but it can't be in the top half of the list for me. So I don't know where your rankings are, but this is how my rankings go. We've done 10 now, 10 novels. And number 10, I still have Klingon Gambit at 10. I mean, if you're going to use the word Gambit in the title, there better be a Gambit in the book. There's no Gambit. So it's fine. All right. Number 9, I got Doctor's Orders, which feels like it's unfair. I just don't know. It's all Doctor's Orders is all just like, let's have fun with these weird ass aliens that talk in a strange way, And what else happens in that? I don't know. For some reason, McCoy's in charge, right?
Yeah.
And then I have this one at 8, double at 8.
All right.
Then I got Corona at 7. I think Corona is unfair because I really thought the idea of Corona, the sentient star thing, was a cool idea. I don't know.
Yeah, I like that too.
Yeah, but that's a parallel to doing the one first. Is that it's going to suffer. So then I have 3 Minute Universe at 6. I have Deep Domain at 5.
Okay, that was pretty good.
Yeah, it's one of the ones I really actually remember, right? So I kind of give it a little bit of bonus points because I remembered it. And then I have Rathacon at 4, which is unfair because as a story, it's the best story they've told. But you can't give them credit for the story because so I put it at number 4 because of the little details they add around it and stuff like that. And then I have the 3 Romulan stories. I got Web at 3, Romulan Way at 2, and I still have My Enemy, My Ally at number 1. So how about you?
Well, I thought this was cursed right out of the gate because I thought the only 2 compelling ideas from the episode it's based on were the characters of Rook and Andrea, and neither one of them's in it. Corby's not in it, like you said. It doesn't even take place on the planet that was on. Maybe a little.
Well,
it was readable. I mean, it's not like it wasn't a Phoenix-like grind.
Yeah. Grind in every way you can mean it, right?
Yeah, thank you. And I like I like the fact that I like the tension between Brown and totally not a very good facsimile of Kirk. I like the Kirk getting abducted in Jackpot, Nevada, and having to do a Bond-like escape over the course of a third of the book. The club stuff or whatever, I hated. It didn't add anything. It was annoying.
Yeah.
It didn't need to be in there.
Yeah, I agree with that.
The fact that no one, I mean nobody, on the Enterprise was hip to fake Kirk. I mean, everyone on the Enterprise apparently thought Kirk was acting screwy, but nobody thought it wasn't Kirk. I didn't like that. So basically, what I'm saying is, while it's better than some of the Bantam shit that we read, this sucker's a dog. It's pretty forgettable. It's a waste of good ideas, I think.
All right.
And so I have it last.
10. Gotcha.
I have it at 10. Which means that no one is happier than the Klingons about this. Because they have been elevated. Doctor's Orders at 8. Yep. Deep Domain at 7. That maybe could be higher. I've got Web of the Romulans at 6. Wrath of Khan at 5. I have Krona at 4. And I'm wondering why I don't have it above the 3-Minute Universe at 3. I'm going to have to think about that. And then I have the 2 Diane Duane books, although you...
so you have them in the other order, right? You have Miami Mile at 2.
Miami Mile at 2, and then By a Mile, The Romulan Way, which I really like.
Yeah, we talked about that last time. I like the stakes on Miami Mile, and I like how they did... and it's the whole ship a story rather than just the McCoy story and stuff like that.
Well, and there was memorable stuff in both of those books.
Absolutely.
And like you said, some of these books we've read, I don't know that I'm going to remember anything in another month about this double book.
Well, yeah, that's because there's no Andrea. Well, it turns out, ladies and gentlemen, I could pretend to roll dice for you, but I'm not going to pretend because we have already rolled off camera. We're not on camera. Off recording, we've rolled the next book. It was a random choice. Again, we do this by using a 20-sided die and 10-sided die to pick the next book out of the first 50. And the book that came up is number 38, which is the IDIC epidemic, or the IDIC, or the IDIC epidemic, which is one that I remember the name of it, but I didn't remember anything about it. So I'm looking forward to it. I saw it's 270 pages. So that's nice. Rob says the chapters are short. We're going to get to reading that. So next time when you join us here on Is That a Trek in Your Pocket, the Star Trek Pocket Books novel, original series novel podcast, the only one going as far as I know, we're going to talk about, Rob and I will talk about the IDIC epidemic. So.
And I can tell you as of chapter 11, it's already better than double. So.
All right. And so with that, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for hanging out with us late on a Saturday night. And we will, yeah.
Don't end the podcast yet, but did you ever see the movie The Reader?
I don't think I've ever heard of the movie The Reader. What's it about?
I guess it got nominated for Best Picture a while back. It's about Kate Winslet and Ralph Fiennes, or whatever his last name is.
Yes.
Fiennes, thank you. And it's pretty nudity heavy the first half. And so that leads me to say, is that a Trek in your pocket? All right, so good night, everybody.